Hey, I think that's all working.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
seems to be.
Well, I had the microphone set to the wrong thing. I didn't want a repeat of that last time when the camera was acting as the microphone and we were having to shout in that direction.
Yeah, it beats mumbling in the dark, I guess.
Oh, well, yeah, true,
Uh,
true.
with the clock chiming miserably in the background. But here we are.
We're here. We missed a week. We're really sorry for missing a week. A lot of stuff seemed to all go wrong on that Friday, and we were just on the cusp of taking the pouches to the zoo, and that was going to be a bit of a mad rush anyway. So, yeah, we ended up cancelling. I think our webcam stopped working as well, which just made things go all strange. And I found out it was actually a dodgy USB socket. Have fun.
And we got Friday the 13th out of the way.
That's
and
true.
Here we are.
But we're here. We're here. Hello, everyone. So, we've got a lot of news this week, haven't we? It's been quite big for Ratty news.
It has.
Which is good, because that gives us good stuff to talk about.
It does. You can talk and I listen, because I'm not really up to speed, although I've caught up on some of the bits and pieces on social media. Not in enough depth to be able to discuss it, so I will follow your lead.
Well, we'll do the topics and then we'll do the intro. So we've got there's some great study that's been recently done about behaviours with rats, and it's really actually quite interesting and gives a lot of credence to what us owners have been saying for a long time.
It's in the fancy rat community, it's what people have known for years, the games they've played with them and the way that they behave.
Yeah.
And it's quite nice to see that actually vilified in science. So let's talk about it.
We've got that. We've got a rat that's been caught on camera in Dublin being up to all sorts of mischief. And a rather interesting, or a few quotes that were rather interesting from the visual effects producer for Marvel Studios around our rather famous Avengers Rat.
That looks good, yeah.
Let's roll the intro and then let's go. Boom. Right. Interesting study into rats. So this was conducted in the University of Berlin, and it was looking at how rats can deal with certain behavioural situations. And one of the ones that become most successful was around playing hide and seek. And there's been so many news outlets flying about saying different things around this, so I went straight to one of the more credible science-based news sites to try and know the most about it, because I was genuinely quite interested about this. And so essentially they made a number of hiding places for both rats and for the games master. The games master was one of the scientists there, and so they started each game where the rats would either start inside. They had to start inside a box. The rats start inside a box to start this game. They would train them to do, and the rats would either take up a position of either a seeker or a hider, and it would be decided based on certain cues that the researchers would give, and that would either mean that the rat had to go off and hide somewhere, and the scientist games master would count with his eyes closed, her eyes closed, and they have to go off and find them. And the rats had a number of hiding places that they could choose from, and they would choose what one they wanted to. And this is a number of different animals, bear in mind. And then the reverse of that was that the games master would go and hide, and the rats had to find them. So I think first of all, the interesting thing here, they were saying that when the rat was the seeker, they would close the box. The games master would go and hide, opening the lid of the box with remote control once they'd found themselves a hiding place. And the rat knew that was its cue to jump out the box and go and find the games master. And the only reward given when they did find the games master was attention. No food reward, no treat reward, which would just reinforce that behaviour. It's got to be something that they want to do, which is great. But then they had the reverse role where the rat was the hider, and they would basically the same box, but they would leave it open, and the games master would close their eyes, and the rat would go off and find somewhere to hide in this spot. The most interesting thing that come from this is that they were showing that the rats were able to understand two different roles in two different situations, and that it required different rules, and that you can't swap halfway through.
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? So they knew that if they were the seeker, they had to find the person, Whereas if they were the hider, they had to hide.
So they would be able to adopt a role according to what was expected of them.
Exactly, and that's what they were saying is that's really quite unusual behaviour. They gave it a particular name. It's a high cognitive ability.
Yeah.
That's not seen in many animals. It's called theory of mind, and it's something that very, very few animals are able to do. And that is that your situation is going to change depending on essentially what's expected of you, as you say.
And they realise, again, theory of mind's common in autism studies. They say that people with autism don't really have a sense of self, and that they believe everybody else is thinking what they're thinking. And I guess that's why it gets so frustrating for them, because they can't understand how their needs aren't being met if they don't tell somebody what they need.
Yeah. There was a great bit on this.
So that's a real big leap forward in behavioural studies.
Well, this is what they were studying it because it relates to people, but it also relates to the animals. But something I thought was great, and this is something they didn't expect, that they noticed, that when the animals were hiding, because you'd have a number of different, these were male rats that had been trained, would go off to the separate places to hide. They realised quite quickly that if they made noise, then they would basically the game's master would know where to look.
Yeah.
So they would run into one of they had options of transparent and translucent and opaque boxes. And they quickly learned that, if we go in the transparent ones, they'll just get found. So they was going to the opaque ones. But they also were making no noise. They would duck down, make no noise. And they realised that they could talk to each other in different boxes using ultrasonic noises, but not subsonic noises that we could hear.
So they would deliberately adjust their language, knowing that humans couldn't hear them.
Exactly, and that's a real big. That shows that they're aware that
That
we are not them.
That is proper theory of mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, playing tricks on people, having that kind of sense of humour.
Well, the phrase
and that sense of irony, to be able to play a trick on somebody and deceive them is groundbreaking behaviour, really.
Well, the quote from one of the researchers...
I'm not surprised as such, but it is
I don't
fantastic.
think any of us that keep them are, but the quote they said is that they stopped making audible noises and communicated with each other using ultrasonic, given that the researchers could not hear and showed an ability to understand that other beings have a different viewpoint. I mean, that's just great. And it adds a lot of credence to anthropomorphism, where obviously we're applying certain things to animals. But this actually proves that we may not be so wrong when we, as rat owners, do this quite often to them.
And we've projected, for as long as we've kept them as pets, we've projected personalities onto them, and I guess rolled our eyes to an extent, thinking, oh yeah, it's just because they're our pets. You know, you even give them little voices and things. But
we
it's
do,
not so far from the truth. I wonder if they've all got different voices. I know that the pouches have.
Oh yeah. Well, we can tell a noise is made. We know who they are.
If we're in bed at night and one of them's screaming blue murder, we can shout down the stairs, "Shut up, Sally!" or "Be quiet, Tetra," and it is the
does
one.
Work. Do you know, I had this. This was only today that, and I did exactly this whole where you look at an animal and you apply this to it, and you know, could I maybe be wrong in making the assumption? So I was waiting at Tottenham Court Road Station in London to get the Central line today, and you get a lot of these mice on the underground.
Yeah.
And they're little dark-coloured things, and I think they're quite sweet, and I watch them scurrying around, and they seem so unbothered by the fact you get these trains. You probably get the same in the US with the subways. And but because there was a lot of tourists today, because of the climate change demonstrations, I mean, the commuters every day, we're not even really looking at the tracks. We just want to get on the train and get home or get to work. But the tourists are like, oh, look at the mouse, and they're throwing some food down. And there was two children, and I think I'm gathering the father, and the child's throwing a bit of his burger down onto the tracks. And two of these little mice come over, and one of them was taking a couple of bites and stopped and stood up on its legs and looked up, just for a minute, in exactly the direction where the food had come from. Now, its eyesight's not good enough that it would be able to see, but it would see movement and then food.
It didn't look at the notice board to find out how long it would be before the train would come, did it?
No.
Quick, we've got time.
But in my mind, I'm going, oh, bless it. It's standing up just to show some sort of thank you. Because I gather they don't have a lot of food down there. There's no natural food for them.
No.
I've always wondered how they survive.
They rely on our rubbish.
Which, I'll be honest, there's not a lot that ends up down there. I mean, most people won't eat on the tube.
People are a lot better now than they used to be for that.
Yeah, so we'll do it. But, you know, maybe I'm making the assumption that I'm wrong and that mouse wasn't looking up and being grateful, but actually maybe it was. Maybe it understood that boy was a being different from him.
Or maybe it was just saying, "Is that it? Where's the ketchup?
Maybe.
Where's a slice of pizza?"
Exactly. So yeah, really interesting study. It's really nice to see some positive studies done on them, and especially ones that outline that not all studies need to be, well, towards the more animal testing route. This is obviously beneficial to the animal as well as the
It's
researchers.
something that was enjoyable and I would imagine minimally invasive and fun for the animal as well.
Well, yeah.
Win-win.
Win-win. Next piece of news, which I've rather fetchingly called Petrol Head. So this is one I don't think you've seen this, have you?
I haven't seen this, so this is
this is a bit of a more recent thing. So rather than being on the back foot with the study, we're on the this one was only yesterday, I believe. So a Dublin petrol station has been forced to close after some footage was shared on Twitter of a rat in one of their kitchens, and I do believe this was one of the areas where they prepare food.
Did it make itself a sandwich?
Well, kind of. it was filmed stealing a piece of bread and running out the packet with it. So this is one of the apple green petrol stations in Dublin. I've got a rather great piece of footage which I can share from this. Let's go over and have a look. So, I'm just realising I'm not even on the camera. Right, let's have a watch.
Oh, excellent.
They're gone. I mean, I'm just looking at this is from Tony Groves. By all means, follow this guy on Twitter because he's got a fairly nice. He's not sitting there going, "Oh, it's disgusting, oh, it's gross," but saying that this is this.
That was actually a really clean and tidy looking little rat. That was.
Well,
that wasn't a sewer rat. That was a lovely little thing.
It certainly wasn't, and I'm looking at that thinking, that's a little girl.
Yeah.
Quite obviously.
Probably looking for food for her babies
Yeah.
who were all living in the oven.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, they've all got to eat as well, haven't they? You can't be too awful, but
No.
I could see how somewhere could get shut down for that.
But yeah, I thought that was rather entertaining. I mean, I've seen the contrast, the very difference in what certain news places have reported. Some of them finding the humour in it, some of them going disgusting footage of. It's the same old, really. Some of the slightly more upmarket newspapers tend to be a bit more, if anything, a bit more like...
A bit more liberal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's your tabloids that are disgusting. It's like, if it's getting in, it's going to find food. It's just one of them things.
Yeah.
Just one of them things. Right, and the next bit of news from... So, this was there was a fairly recent documentary done around... Avengers Endgame by Wired. And in this documentary, Jen Underdale, who's the visual effects producer for Marvel Entertainment, was talking about what went on behind the scenes around our famous rat scene in the film. And she was saying in the documentary that one of the supervisors on the film made a bet that they would have to replace the CGI rat. The rat with CGI.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't be able to find one that would do exactly what they wanted to do.
Yeah, their behaviour's not predictable enough.
So they were expecting having to do that. And then she says, for those of you that are curious, it's not a digital rat. We did find a rat, and that is actually a real rat.
Have you got footage?
I've got so back when we first talked about this and shared this, there was no footage around, but now there is. So that we can share for anyone who hasn't seen it. Let's have a quick gander at the particular scene. It would help if I started from the beginning, really, wouldn't it? Because you haven't seen this, have you?
No.
Well, there we go. So yeah, technically that was rather large part of the show, I think, in the terms of what it did.
Just looking to see who's signing in. We've got Doo-Wop, Bob.
Bob's got a wonderful
Maggie.
question there.
What's that?
Do you think the Pouches could be trained to play hide and seek? I think most certainly they could.
I think if they were food orientated, they could be trained to do just about anything, but none of ours seem to be. The only one that really scoffs everything is Tetra. The only one that's sort of grabby and pouchy and stuffing his pouches, he's the only one.
I think Sally would, but she's got such a short attention span.
Sally's just not right.
No, we know she's not right.
She's completely bonkers. She's not improving with age.
I think she's getting worse.
Yeah.
She's biting less.
Yeah, that's a bit of a relief.
One thing. She's crying at the moment. The big thing with her is she's trying to get into a room and you're not going to let you. If you tell her off for something, or you tell her she can't go somewhere, she's got this noise, and I've never heard any of the others do it. It's like a.
It's like a dog whining.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I can't help but wonder. Is she listening to the dog next door, and thinking that's the noise?
No idea.
It's not none of the noise any of the others.
The others don't do it. No.
So I'm
whistling's
curious.
quite a common expression when they're disappointed about something. If you close the cage door or whatever and they weren't ready to get back in, you'll get this whistling sort of bird sound, but hers is different and it's heart-rending, and she knows full well that if you hear that noise it's very hard not to pick her up again.
She's just learnt, hasn't she?
Yeah. She's great.
Right, well, that's my news. I should hand over to you to do whatever it is that you want to talk about.
Whatever it is. Let's catch up with the news anyway. We missed the last UnPouched because we were taking the animals to the zoo, weren't we?
We did, yeah.
That was a massive...
That was
filled with apprehension about doing that, although we knew that they would go to a brilliant home and they would help a lot of people and give a lot of people joy.
How was we both feeling?
Approach
let's talk about
it was right.
how we were feeling on the morning, Saturday morning. We both had a stone in our stomach feeling. We were really nervous, weren't we?
Yeah. And reiterated time and time again, if we get there, we don't like the place, or there's something about the people that we're not sure about, we can always just say no.
This is the deal that we've always made, haven't we? Whenever if Pouches are ever going off to homes, we've always said if one of us has we tend to say a safe word, don't we? If one of us is not happy, then we say the safe word. The other one knows what that means, and we can, if it disappoints people, then so be it. We have to do what's best for the animal. Yeah. So we spoke about that. We weren't sure. We got there. What happened?
Absolutely overwhelmed. The people were fantastic. We met the head keeper and we met the animal trainer who trains all the animals and birds that they use in displays, and they couldn't have been happier with them. They'd never seen or held a pouched rat before.
But they had them straight out. They were like, "Hi guys," and they were talking to them.
And the two boys that we took there just responded so well.
Boom, shoulder. Yep, quite happy here.
Yeah.
I don't want to come back, Mum.
Yeah, I mean, I let the guy, the animal trainer, I let him hold Meat, and he was cuddling him, and I was like, "Oh, I just want one more cuddle. Come on!" And he didn't want to come back to me.
It was fine.
Yeah. Really happy. We saw where they were going to be living. They have to live there for a month. So they're not in their main enclosure. They're going to be in a separate building for a month because they've got really strict quarantine laws. Everything that they do is governed by the Royal Zoological Society. And they just seemed to be really on the ball. They asked a lot of questions about the animals' needs, about their preferences.
Yeah.
And when we were walking around the park afterwards, we got to see firsthand just how well all the animals were cared for. And there's a lot of volunteers that staff it. And one of the volunteers came up to us and we started talking about why we were there and that we'd just dropped the rats off. And she said, "No way." She said, "I've just seen them in the staff room. The keepers are walking around with them on their shoulders, showing everybody."
We picked a random enclosure. It was the lemurs, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it lemurs?
It was lemurs, yeah.
We picked a random enclosure to go into. and just spoke to a random member of staff who just happened to like, oh yeah, everyone's talking about them.
Yeah.
I felt like they'd gone off to a great big family.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like they were going off to some corporate organisation where they'd just be a number.
That was my fear. I had, quite a fluffy idea, I suppose, that there would all be lovely pets in a lovely house with a lovely family, and the opportunity came up to donate them to a zoo, and we thought, let's give this a go. And in this particular case, it's paid off. The place is called Africa Alive. It's in Lowestoft in Suffolk, and it's fantastic. Anybody living around this region would be really well versed to go and give it a visit.
Well, they were talking. The animal trainer was talking about teaching one of them or both of them to do sniff training, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And they seemed quite into that.
Yeah, and again, that would be a really good vehicle for them to talk about the work that the Popo are doing, not only with the landmines, but with the tuberculosis testing as well.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword, really. Again, I think we've tried to do something that will help raise awareness of the brilliant work that a Popo do.
Well, he trains, the trainer trains like the birds, doesn't he? And he was talking about how he trains the birds. And then we went to see him doing one of his exercises with the birds, and God, they're so well trained to know exactly what they're doing, and they're not in any way stressed in what they're doing.
No, they know them. The keepers know their animals so well. We did check up on them. We sent an email about 3 or 4 days after we dropped them off, and the keeper said they were a little bit quiet for a couple of days, but really coming out of their shells now, and it'll probably be about 2 weeks until they're open to the public. Yeah.
And I think give it 6 months, maybe a year, we'll go and see how they're doing.
Yeah.
Go and see them in an enclosure, and I'm really glad. I was like you, very nervous. But they've gone off, and they'll spread the word a lot more than I think we ever could. Yeah.
And meanwhile, their sister, there was 2 boys and a girl. Their sister's still here. She's going to be going off to her forever home around the end of September. And with her is going to be one of the current litter from Lolo and Bob called Calix.
Yep.
So she will be living, they're not brother and sister, she'll be living with a cousin.
Yep.
And spending a life with him, which is again really, really exciting. We're excited. I know the owner's excited, and he's all ready to have them. He has got previous experience. It's quite funny when people have previous with an animal that is really grumpy.
But when they have one that's bad, have one that's difficult.
He rescued it, didn't he? What was it called?
Oh, what was his name? He did tell us.
Yeah, Grumpy. Norman. It wasn't Norman. Grumpy somebody. Anyway, it was a male pouchy. It stunk. It would come and sit on his knee, but if you tried to pet it or stroke it, it would bite him. And then if it wasn't ready to get off his knee, it would bite him if you tried to lift it up.
Yeah.
So it was a horrible, miserable animal that actually lived quite a long and happy life with him on his terms. So the chance that he's got to have 2 from babies, and Calix will be a very small baby, is payback in a good way.
Yeah.
For him sitting it out. I guess it was the same with Yena and Annette.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that baptism of fire. People start off with the most difficult of cases.
Yeah, she took Yena on, and Yena was difficult and damaged, and now she's got Floki, who is like the model pet. He's probably, out of all the ones that we've bred, I would say Floki is the cuddle bum, isn't he?
He's
he's
always up to something bad.
Yeah. Yeah, we get so many stories and so many anecdotes about what they've been up to, and this is why the Facebook group, I think, just thrives, because there's so many people that are willing to chip in and say, oh, you never guess what happened the other day. And it's lovely for people to read, whether or not you've got one, whether or not you're thinking about getting one.
If you do have one, are yours normal?
It fills out. It just fills out the character and reinforces the fact that they're all really, really different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone knows each other's pouches. You can say the name of the pouch, and you're like, oh yeah, that belongs to so and so. That belongs to so and so. If anything, I think we're starting to get, listening to their voices, we know who they are.
Yeah.
Or is that just us?
I think it's everybody. I think that while they are difficult pets and they take up a lot of time and they're unpredictable. They're also really fascinating, and the learning curve that we've been on, you know, we might not have been around for a long time, but we've certainly learned a lot, I think, in the 3 years that we've packed all this information in.
Yeah. Maggie's asked a really good question there. So, do baby pouches grow as fast as fancy babies?
No, I mean, they grow at
They take a jump, don't they?
They grow at a humongous rate, but they are slightly slower to develop.
I say as soon as they open their eyes, they start really packing on the size.
They take a big leap forward, but up until week 3, I would say, yeah.
Because they open their eyes later,
They
than fancy
do.
rats,
Yeah.
by around 5 days.
Well, no, a bit more than that.
5 or...
Yeah. The fancy rats will open them generally around 14 to 16
they're on 14
days.
days normally.
And these will be maybe 21 to 24.
So, yeah, exactly.
And when they're born, it is the creepiest thing to see a newborn pouched rat baby, because it has no eyes. It's got no eyelids. It's just got a shadow of black cells where the eyes are going to be. And I think when we first had Sally, she was the first one we'd ever seen, obviously. I was really taken aback holding her. Apart from her massive strength, I was like, she hasn't got any eyes. She's got no eyelids. I was just going to be blind.
Well, obviously you don't see it.
And she was
You don't see it in the fancies because they're so small. But yeah, you're right. The stuff's there. It just hasn't even begun to develop yet into what will be eyes.
So yeah, I mean that aspect of the development is very behind. Even, you know, baby fancy rats have globes where the eyes will be, and they've got eyelids and little closed eyelids. And the pouchies don't seem to have anything.
No,
so that's a bit different. The teeth take a little bit longer to come in.
They come through without any, because I mean fancy rats, there's sort of the start of teeth there, I think.
I think from birth they've got very remedial tiny teeth, but pouchies don't, and their teeth come in
much later,
around 6-7 days.
I think they kind of go for a teething stage because they tend to go through from 6 up to around the 2-week mark. Mainly until their eyes have opened. They do get quite bitey.
They bite everything. They bite each other. They bite us. They bite their mother, and it's quite hard.
Oh yeah, it's
quite unrestrained.
When you've got this little tiny pink thing and it's literally biting you, making you bleed.
You can get a nasty bite from one, and you have to train them gently. The biting to that extent is wrong.
Well, when they do it to each other, one of them will then bite the other one back, or mum will kick them in the face or something.
They get slapped. Which, I mean, we can't slap something that big.
But it's you have to push, almost push them away, no, pop them on the nose, no.
Yeah.
And that's it, because we've done that now with a couple of litters to try and it's worked quickly. By the time their eyes open, they've stopped that.
They do learn, yeah.
Because I think if they start biting past that, you're onto a losing streak there.
Yeah, luckily, touch anything resembling wood. They've had pretty nice natures, really.
Yeah.
They're not spiteful.
No, that's kind of worked.
Yeah.
Another question from Bob. Do pouchies ever squeak like Yana did when she got a banana?
Yeah, again, they've all got these different voices and different... There's something that we've certainly noticed is that they don't find their voices until they're around 4 or 5 months old.
It's true, yeah.
Until that time, unless they're fighting or squabbling or they hurt themselves,
you won't
and
hear
squeal,
a noise out of them.
they're pretty silent. And then the purring will kick in. It's always magic the first time you hear one purr.
You hear a first purr, and then you might get a cover, and then all of a sudden it's like they'll be making noises all the time.
Yeah.
I guess from an evolutionary point of view, that makes sense. When they're smaller, making noise could get them caught by a predator when they are vulnerable. Once they get to around 6 months, especially the males, once they're that much bigger, it's less of an issue. So they can then start communicating with each other in that same sort of way.
Yeah, Lolo and Bob have got a whole range of vocalisations that you never hear them make either to any other rat or to humans.
No.
Or the singing and trilling and chirruping that goes on between those two.
Well, to us that sounds like they're trying to kill each other, and then you go down and actually they're just sitting in bed with each other, looking at each other, making these weird noises.
Yeah.
Talking to Bob and Lois, so we had...
yeah. Poor old Bob. No longer has his bobbles.
Bob lost his bobbles.
It was, at first things weren't so bad with Bob and Lolo, and there seemed to be a regulation in the way that they were breeding. She had a single baby. and weren't expecting the single baby, and I don't think she was either, because she started losing interest in him pretty quickly again. And that was Nobby, who luckily we could pass over to Alice, who just had a litter. But I think she was on the way to rejecting the single baby again.
That kind of made us realise that.
Yeah, and she very, very quickly just sort of adopted interest in Bob again and lost interest in the baby. And lo and behold, 4 weeks after that, out popped a litter of 3. And we thought, hold on, this is getting out of control. They're going to have back-to-back litters if we leave them together, and it's just not ethical. It's not what we wanted to do.
Well, it puts us in a hard position, because we know the right thing to do at that point was to have him done, because they still very much want to be with each other.
It was either live separately or have him neutered, and Bob is absolutely dependent on Lolo for his health and his happiness. He doesn't do well without her.
He's spending time with her now outside the cage, but he's been separated from her just while the babies are growing up, and then they can stay together at that point.
Yeah, they come out and they come out and run around together every night, and he seems to be coping, knowing that he's still got that little bit of contact with her.
Yeah, he still tries to hump her.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Which is fine.
Well, Arthur humps me, and he hasn't got any testicles, and he's not had any since he was 6 months old.
But he still gives you a
He'll
right.
still give it a go. He's a man. What can you say?
Exactly.
Who can blame him?
Well, yeah.
But I mean, from Bob's perspective, it now means that they can live together without Lolo being exhausted or becoming out of condition, without us struggling to find homes for babies that haven't been planned. And Lolo has had an excellent run and been a lovely little mother. And when the time comes, perhaps we could let her have some time with Gus.
She can
because
potentially prove another male, and then
either.
Bob will still raise the babies thinking they're his.
With a bit of luck.
Hopefully.
With a bit of luck, she'll have more than one, because she's good at that.
Yeah, it has thrown a spanner in the works, because you obviously want to try and manage that as best you can, and it's hard to do if they're going to have back-to-back litters. And we've spoke about this on UnPouched before, about balancing out. Obviously, with the fancies, you're putting 2 together, they're mating, and then you're like, right, they mated on X date, you're going to get babies in X amount of days, you can separate them off again. But with this, it's not as easy with the pouchies. It's
really hard to calculate what they're up to, and given that they're nocturnal as well, it makes it doubly difficult, because they could just sneak one in while no one's looking.
Yeah.
Which they obviously did. Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, because from our calculation, it was the same day that the baby was put in with Alice.
So, yeah, I mean, if we were a bit less woolly and a bit more breeder-like, and we were prepared to keep them all in rows and rows of separate cages all the time and not treat them like pets, this would be far easier. But we're not cut from that cloth. What can we say?
Defies the whole point in doing it.
We'll love them too much, and we need to meet their needs as well as them meeting the needs of other people.
Well, they've got to be our pets first.
And we're learning. I think every time we come on here, we'll come back to this fact that we are all still learning, and they are still teaching us, and we're still teaching each other so much. We may not have been around a long time, but the amount of knowledge that we have is vast, and it's growing week on week. So we're really grateful to people that contribute and tune in, because at the end of the day, we are all trying to work together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because separately you achieve nothing.
No.
Another good question here from Maggie. When do their ears open?
Their ears are fused to the heads at birth, and around the 4 or 5 day mark, they start to go from being flat on the head to folding over. They get a little bend in the top.
Yeah.
When the ears start to come away from the scalp. I don't know when the ear canal opens itself.
I would assume around the same, because if you look, because the ears are almost fused to the head, it's probably, again, there's probably bundles of cells there ready to go into the ear canal and the various things. The bones are probably there, they need, but a lot of the soft tissue's not developed yet.
No. But what is very, very well developed on them is the mouth parts. They're born with little whiskers, their tongue, the roof of their mouth,
all the stuff
their muzzle, their nose, all the
suckling.
Stuff they need for eating is there.
Yeah.
And my God, they can eat.
Oh, they just don't stop.
It's all they do. It's magic. We are massively, massively lucky, apart from the hard work and the expense we've put in. we're massively lucky to be witnessing this, and we won't be rocking backwards and forwards in a nursing home having said, oh, I wish we'd done that.
Oh, we drive ourselves mad, don't we? Because we hear a bang upstairs because someone's knocked something over, and then I find my toothbrush in the toilet, and we say, why do we have these animals again? Please remind. And then all it takes is that one little thing, Sally will climb up your back onto your shoulder and lick your face, and you're like, oh, well, that's why we have them.
Yeah,
they do drive you mad, but they are special.
And yeah, everybody has hiccups along the way and makes mistakes, but I think overall we're so committed and we are really doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And we're not going anywhere. We're going to be around for years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even if it's not just us. I mean, there's other guys. We're the ones that do this, but there's plenty of other guys that do other bits and pieces. The society, on the committee, there's other guys. There'll always be people doing this.
Yeah, and we want to expand in a way that is ethical. We've got one of the baby girls going off to Holland to expand the gene pool in the Netherlands, and again add a little bit of vigour to it, and do some work elsewhere as well. It's not all about us. No.
Worth adding that around the end of the year normally we do a rejig of the society's committee. We'll be doing the same this year, so have a think now if you like the idea of doing something. If you've got some ideas, you want to get involved with the society, that's a good time to raise your hand and say, do you know what, I've got some things I'd like to do, and this is a democracy, everyone gets to vote. This is the whole point of the committee, is that we all the silly decisions, like even who the owner should be, if we were all voting on what breakfast we should be having in the mornings, we tend to in a Facebook chat vote on everything, so that everyone is
the decisions on where the babies go are actually an involved thing. We'll talk about it as a group. It's not just us.
Well, there's 5 of us, isn't there, at the moment, and even if Claire and I both said, oh no, we don't like this person, there's 3 other people that can vote and mean that we don't necessarily get to choose that. It's about a joint decision on where they should go, because I don't think it should be down to one person to make the decision.
It is a big decision, and it's without bias. The more people that are involved, and there are people that we really value and really trust, and you all know who you are.
Yeah.
Have you seen the time?
I have. We've gone over.
We have gone over, and despite the uncommon belief that we're reading everything off a script or a notebook,
I don't even think that was you read through your notes.
No.
And my notes are just, we don't read through scripts.
Of course we don't. No. We could go on all night. I mean, this is really just us not sitting on the sofa. Lucky enough to have an office and a semi-professional studio, and here we are.
Does the job.
No fumbling around in the dark here.
No.
We think you're all worth too much for that.
Exactly. We'll say hi to everyone on Facebook as well. We've got Kira who's watching. Hello,
and Bonnie.
Kira.
Bonnie from Denmark. Bonnie. Hello, hi.
Hello from Denmark.
And the lovely Kira, who always tunes in.
And Susan. Hello, Susan.
Send healing thoughts to Gimli. Linda McPherson's pouchy Gimli, who is Arthur's brother, hasn't been very well. And Linda can't make it live, but she is going to catch up later. So big hugs to Gimli.
Yes. Yeah. We are generally
He is improving.
Yeah.
He is improving slowly. They just need to get to the bottom of what's wrong. And again, once we know what's wrong, it's another one to add to the library.
Exactly. And there's still no sign of Ralphie, sadly. We're all still hoping, really, really hoping that Ralphie turns up.
It's difficult. It's difficult to keep up that hope, but what else do you do? All our hearts are absolutely breaking for Christy. And still thinking of her. Yeah. Still in touch.
Oh yeah, we said if all of us were together in one place, we would go and we'd be looking.
Send out a search party.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. There's a bit of a distance between where they are and where we are.
There is, and even though these things, it's inevitable. We've all made mistakes. We've all left a door open. There's nobody that's infallible. We lost Arthur behind a sink in a hotel once, and what did we use to get the sink off the wall?
I used a spoon. Luckily,
a spoon and a pair of scissors.
That was it. Well, I thought it was Lolo, didn't I? Because they both went in there, and then we quickly got one back without actually checking because we were panicking too much. I assumed it was Lois, so I'm putting my hand in this wall, thinking I'm going to get my hand.
You're going to get your hand taken off, yeah.
And luckily, it was Arthur. He just Hello, covered in dust.
Yeah.
Oh, that was. I don't want to.
Yeah, I know.
So it's even happened to us. Even we've made these.
Again, yeah. Even us, especially us. No one's infallible.
Oh, we've lost Lolo behind the sink. Not the sink. We've lost her in the kitchen behind the bits.
Well, she went behind the dishwasher and chewed some wires, and you got a lovely electric shock, didn't you?
She didn't get the electric shock. I got the electric shock the next day.
Yeah, and she
proper
also
electric
got
shock.
behind the wall somehow, and we could hear her scuffling up the kitchen wall.
Yes. Yep. There's a pipe that goes up. Waste pipe.
Can you remind me why we even bother with these animals? What happened? What went wrong?
I think a bit like cats. There's obviously like a bacteria that gets into your brain and starts controlling you.
Do they brainwash you subliminally or that screeching while we're asleep?
I reckon that's it.
Yeah.
They're controlling you.
Yeah.
Right, we're just yammering now. Right.
I know. Come on, let's.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you again in a fortnight. We
Yeah.
won't let you down next time.
Thank you so much, everybody. And for now, we're most definitely unpouched.
We are UnPouched. Good evening, good day, good morning, wherever you are. Bye for now, everyone.
Bye.